Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Building a Ready Plus Space workshop. I'm Alice Audrain, the lead community outreach and development coordinator, and I'm really happy to teach you a lot of important and good stuff today. I want to thank my colleague Ruby Alguire for help creating this workshop, and I hope you learn a lot. Today is really building a Ready Plus space, and it focuses on people, individual in their immediate environment, in your workspace, where you do volunteer work, or in your community. It's more interrogating what's around you and how you interact and the impact it has on you. So we're going to talk about something that's more internal cultures, how to understand and what's around you, then everything around like equity practices, so the lens that you can apply to things to have a better understanding, and then like an awareness of where you stand and what you need to work on. Yeah, that's what we're going to go through today together. Um, so first, we can ask ourselves, like, what kind of space? Um, Two concepts that already exist is safe space and brave space. Today, we are trying to build together Ready Plus space. So what is the difference? When you talk about safe spaces, it sounds really good. Like everybody wants to work or exist in a safe space. So it has a good connotation, it's a good feelings, it's appealing, it's positive. But also, it has a number of questions like safety. What does safety mean? Safe for who? How do we maintain this level of safety? It can feel precarious. Sometimes it's misleading because if sometimes if some people feel safe, it means it feels unsafe for others. So it can be a bit confusing, and it's focused a bit too much on the individuals and not building that connection at the collective level. So there's also Brave Space that was kind of a response to Safe Space, especially the cons part of it. And it was more also appealing because it being brave, like who doesn't want to be brave? Like it's very positive. It sounds like confidence. You have to face some of your internal beliefs, interrogate your biases, being able to have conversation that needs to happen, and kind of being okay with sitting with discomfort. Um, but being brave, like it requires a lot of investment, so it is challenging and it can sound intimidating, because if you need to be brave, like there's something that makes you feel uncomfortable or there's some fear there. So it can be difficult to bring people there, and it's kind of impractical, because it's not something that's easy to accomplish, and it's hard to bring everybody on board at the same time in the same way. So, of course, we wanted to go beyond those two concepts and build our own way of doing things. But it is important, though, to understand what's needed, because it shows what's needed, and you can focus on words to do that. And that's one of the important aspects. Words do matter, and it will interrogate. What already exists will teach you what's needed. So we are sharing with you the new Ready Plus approach, but what already exists will also indicate to you what's needed in your environment. So, for example, if someone else that's not us will tell you, oh, I want to build a safe space, you can interrogate yourself, like, what does safe mean? Safer for who? What do we think that's what we need? Then it gives you an indication of, how does people around you feel, and what can you you want, what do you want to accomplish, what are your common goals. If you use, for example, you think you need brave spaces, like who needs to be courageous, what's happening there, what do people want to prioritize this. So it also helps you build that individual journey that we are trying to build together. Also space, what space, like where do you want to use it. It will help you define, like, what are the limits of that space, what are the rules, what are the structure, and that's going to also be like very helpful. And there's other terms that are using what other people call the DEI word, like inclusion. Often you hear like diversity, equity, and inclusion, and those words also have a lot of meaning. I know that for me, inclusion, I always wonder, like, if there's a need for inclusion, who is excluded? Who are those people who we need to bring inside the circle? Who is at the margin? Who are the people at the margin? And how can I integrate that into my journey, into making it safe? That's a space that's just more welcoming to everybody. So why is today's training so important? I don't know for you, but I know that there's a lot of people, especially that come from historically underserved communities, that don't feel very comfortable in some spaces, especially at work, for example. If you are in a workplace, it's important because you want everybody to feel welcome in your space. There's also a lot of positive aspect because we spend a lot of time together, and if that's how things are going to be, then we want to make sure everybody feels great. It's also important because it can enhance productivity and have the just have a better environment, and a healthier environment around you. In that study that we are citing here, it's an Indeed report that found that 49% of Black employees are considering quitting because of unsafe workplace. So it's a very big issue. It's a very rampant, serious problem, and I'm sure none of us think it's acceptable. And so this is your first step to trying changing something. And yeah, because if we're in this together, then better do things well. So for spaces that we share with other people, there's often rules, like health and safety guidelines for work. And when we think about health and safety, we often think about like, let's try not being hurt. Let's try not something like fall on our heads. Let's try to make sure that when we use certain equipment, then we're not gonna get hurt. But we need to remember that when it comes to integrating and making spaces more welcoming, it has a lot to do with things that are not just physical. It's not just about what can happen to the body. It's often what happened to the mind. So it's not physical injuries. It would be injuries like psychological injuries, emotional injuries, or even moral injuries, which are the ones that happen the most to historically underserved communities in spaces. And it can be very common, but also very underestimated, depending on what people are keeping inside and if it's easy or not to share their experience with the people around them. It's also hard when you're aware and you're not part of those communities, but you don't know how to react. You don't know what to do about the environment that you're in. So it is important to keep in mind that there's different type of injuries that you need to be on the lookout for and you need to be aware of. Because unsafe spaces have an impact on people, especially on people's behavior. There is aspect of it that we are equal when we face them. So when you are in an unsafe space, it impacts your nervous system. And the way your nervous system reacts could be in two different ways. It can impact your ability to work, for example. Let's say in the workspace example, sorry. So feeling unsafe mean you can be in what we decided to call slut state, which is that state where you're feeling so disconnected that you're starting to feeling hopeless, lost, or even too tired to think or act. You have memory problems, for example. It's hard for you to get on your task. It's hard for you to focus. So a nervous system that feels unsafe can react that way and then, make you disconnected from what you're trying to accomplish and what you're trying to do in the spaces that you're in. It can also put your brain in watchdog mode, which is also another state that is uncomfortable feeling in a space with other people because it makes you in that zone of fight or flight. Your nervous system is so activated that, again, you also have trouble focusing, but in a different way because you're too activated. And you're always hyper aware of your environment. So you can be very nervous. So that is the way that anyone in an unsafe environment or unsafe space can feel. the lack of safety has an impact on your nervous system that cannot be underestimated or also misunderstood. But there's another lens that you can apply to feeling unsafe in spaces, and it's an equity lens. It's the lens that where we're not all equal depending on our identity. Um, and this is the lens that will impact historically underserved community differently. So let's go back to the nervous system a little bit. So like we said, we can all, her brain will always react the same way. But there's a sense of connection that is also important, because right now, let's imagine that your nervous system is activated. And so that's an example of what we teach usually in our other workshops about how people can react depending on how they feel. And this is where you want to be. So one of the state that I described was more of a state of numbness, of shutdown or collapse. You are in your dorsal vagal activation, and this is your part of your body when you're having a lack of energy and you cannot react. There's also the sympathetic activation of your nervous system. This is where you feel rather unactivated and overwhelmed. That's also another part of your body. And then you want to be in the ventral vagal activation, which is where you feel safe. And depending on how your nervous system feels and your brain, you will feel it in different part of your body. When you're from an historically underserved community, you're in those states a lot more often because of systemic realities. Because the aspect that you add with an equity lens is the one where you have the disconnection with the people who don't understand or don't perceive the experience that you're having on a daily basis. They're not part of that understanding, of that consciousness of being part of a marginalized group. So there's a disconnection, and social connectedness is very important. It's one very important aspect in a space that you exist in, especially in the workplace. So if you take that away from someone who's already experiencing enough an unsafe workspace, then you can understand how it's a layered issue for those communities. So that is for how a person feels. There's also the reality of structures in organizations. And there's plenty of research that shows that for marginalized communities, the work experience is very specific and not always welcoming. This is a research that was done by the Center for Community Organization that I really love to share with people, that shows what is kind of the cycle of someone that's hired for diversity, really. And I've experienced that myself, but I know a lot of people who experience it that way. And it started that way. So your organization wants to hire someone. They're very excited. They know they need more diversity. They know they need to welcome their different people because of who they serve or they wish to serve, or because of the community they're in, or just because they know it's a positive thing. So you hire someone. And the leadership is mostly not racialized. So you're very happy, like the team is happy, the place you work with, the space you work in is very happy. But they really hire that person for what they represent, not necessarily for who they are. So at the beginning, it's great. Everything is going well. The person is welcome and everybody's happy. Then reality hits. There's a lot of microaggression. People are not equipped. They haven't done their homework, I would say. They don't really know how to be more inclusive because they just brought in someone without acknowledging what it would mean. And that the person that was hired is uncomfortable because they're coming from the outside, but they can see clearly the dysfunctional environment and where things need to be improved, or what's not working, or what's not working for them. So there's a lot there. And rather than answering and taking that feedback in a way that it was intended, then people choose to deny. It's also called gaslighting, or collective gaslighting, for example, because in reality, the organization was not ready to change. It wanted to bring in a new perspective. without really acknowledging what it means and the fact that it will create change. And sometimes change is uncomfortable. So then the response is always like to deny or ignore, and it's put on the person to fix the problem. It's their responsibility. But when you notice that it's not working, how do we fix it? It's like, if it's not your job specifically in that organization and you're like the accountant, it's not on you to change the policies. It's not on you to fix that inclusion issue. But sometimes that's what's required, really. But you're always like, you're blamed, or often you have more responsibility toward fixing things. So it feels uncomfortable. You're the one who's causing the issue. So you're seen as problematic. And then you see some retaliation, and then you exit the organization, and the cycles starts again. So as you can see, there's the individual feeling of feeling unsafe that needs to be addressed. But there's also the structural issue that will make the environment you're in problematic in the first place. So I feel like we are aware of this. We have a decent understanding of what I just shared. We know that it's not good to feel unsafe in a space. And we've seen why, because it activates your nervous system, and then you react and you put yourself in a state where you are not present, or you're not pleasant to be around, depending on the state that you're in. Then it's the structure. There's the structure around you that might be already set up to exclude people, to be in that cycle of exclusion that you might not be aware of. So you need to pay attention to how things are going. And if the structure that I showed you with that example, does that happen in your organization? Does that happen in your space? Is it something that you've noticed before? Because it was studied. So now you know it's real. So interrogate the way your organization works. But even if you're aware, you have that awareness of, oh, that space, I need to work on how it feels to be in that environment. It doesn't mean that you know what to do, because it is hard. Even having the information, it is hard. But why is it so hard? And like, why is all of those things happening? What gets in your way? And it often feels like, even if we know a lot, that there's not a lot that we can do. And so we need to acknowledge that there's a very valid reasons why we are unable to change things. And it goes back to the example of that structure. There are power at play that we're not necessarily aware of, and we're not in control of those ways of things that are working. And we can call that external and internal influences. There are forces that work against you. If you're here and you're like, I want to embark on this, I want to work on this, you need to acknowledge today, right now, that you are not in control of everything in your environment. There are definitely external systems that impose what you do, the way you do things, and how things are. There can be systems that are like, depending on the space that you want to work on, like, is it your family, for example? Family systems are very complex. And I'm not going to get into it because you know that it is. There's also economical system, for example, like capitalism can be one that will give you the rules already, and you have to follow the rules to be successful. There's consumerism. I know that there's a lot of people who would want to not leave, spend so much money, but they do. You're stuck in a system. So it's not necessarily just on you. And there are many different systems that will have an impact and influence on how you live your life. And this is not, you didn't choose this, you didn't decide this. Those are external to you, and they impact the way you live, and they have forces that are applied to you. There's also internal mechanism that you have inside you. I know that a lot of you will relate. You have negative inner dialogue, for example. Like, a lot of us talk to ourselves in a way that we would never talk to someone else. We criticize ourselves more than we criticize others. We put more pressure on ourselves than we put on others most of the time. And we might have things that make us a bit different. We might have some disabilities. We might have some barriers. Depending on who we are, we have things inside of us that just are determining a little bit how we behave and who we are and what we do. And acknowledging those two things is important because a lot of forces are at play and it gets in your way. So the feeling of stuck makes sense. This is how it's designed. It is that way, and it's how it's going to be until you acknowledge, and then you are deconstructing part of it. And to change something quickly, you need to have some kind of control. Accept what you can change and let go of what you cannot change. This is the one thing that we should remind ourselves, that if we cannot change something, it requires too much energy. It's almost impossible. So we need to make sure to understand our reality and kind of cut it in pieces that make sense, that we can create change. And so we need to have more control. And to have more control, we need to understand external and internal influences. And we all share that feeling. Like, also because we all have those systems, external and internal, because we all have that, all of us. No one is immune to being influenced by external and internal factors. We all feel stuck. We all feel that it's impossible to act on something. It's impossible to create change. We all share that feeling of disempowerment. It's just different of how those forces are like the effect they have on us, or how much pressure we have on us. So the best way really to create any change, and the first step to that training, is acknowledging those influences, because you need to accept that you're not in control. And that is accepting and then moving toward creating change. But how do you unlearn what you are not even aware you learn in the first place? What's inside of you, what you did not control over? Like, this is your environment, and you had very little decision on this. So it's a fair question, because now it's this, we are entering another territory on unawareness sometimes. Or you're aware, but you don't know how. But what do you do? And the best and quickest and the most maybe obvious, but not that obvious answer is, you don't have any other choice but to trick your brain. You have to. This is how you are. This is how you function. You're not going to rewrite the script. You're not going to be reborn to a new reality. You are who you are. You've acknowledged your limitations. You know what are the influences and where they come from. But now you want to change. We are here to have a practical approach to things, because you want to do something now. You don't want to wait until you know a lot. You don't want to wait to build all the skills that you might need. You want something now. And so we like to share a little bit of some tools with the Ready Plus project that will help you go towards actually tricking your brain. And one of our absolutely favorite tool that we use all the time, and we want you to use it starting now, and maybe you already are, or hopefully maybe you are. It is what we call opposite action. And it's a very practical tool, because opposite action really interrogates, invite people to interrogate the way they react to things. And, well, it's in the name, do the absolute opposite of it. So whenever there's something like this, is very specific to building a space that is more welcoming, of course, but in life in general, it's mostly when you have a fear or an anxiety around something. What if you did the opposite? Like, what if, I don't know, there's this sports that I want to try. I think I'm going to be bad. Like, I really want to play basketball. I'm bad at basketball. And I'm like, I don't know. Opposite action will teach you to, I'm not sure, then let's do it. I'm not sure if I should do it. No, let's do it. And it's really about tricking your brain into starting to do things that it thinks it wants to protect you from. And one of the things that gets in your way the most when you are using opposite action to influence the space that you're in is emotions, because your emotions play a big part in how you behave. and how you're able to create change, especially connected to others. So opposite action is really much, it's very easy, is that you stop and you notice how you feel about something, as something makes you feel. Like I said, for example, basketball makes me feel like I'm incompetent and inadequate, so I don't want to do it. Then you ask yourself, like, why do I feel that way? Uh, is it going to help me like move forward toward my goal or not? Is it useful? Like, does it represent who I am? And if I stay in that emotion, like, would it make things better? And then you ask yourself, what if I do the opposite? Like, what if I do the opposite of what my initial reaction is? Um, and what can he do for me? What can he teach me? And that's something that you can apply to so many different things. I know it looks like silly, but it can make wonder. I know the other day I was at a store and I don't like to ask for help because of maybe my pride, but also I don't want to, disturb people. I don't know. That's me. And so I thought, oh, I should ask. And then in my mind, my emotion was, oh, I don't want to ask for help. So I asked. So I asked. I just asked for help. I didn't try and think about, like, I paused and I noticed my emotion, but my emotion didn't like brought me towards what I wanted, which is find something. And so I just did the opposite action. And you can do that little by little, practicing on everyday things, like little things that, like, oh, I don't want to do this. Then you do it, you do opposite. And practicing this is amazing, because you need to understand the role emotion play in the work that you want to do, and why we are here today. It's building a different type of space for everybody that's around you. Because some emotions, like, there's always a message with emotions. Emotion always teach you something. You're always going to learn something about with your emotions. But are they, like, where do they lead you? Why are they there? And it's very difficult sometimes to integrate your emotion because it requires a lot of vulnerability and it's not always easy. And some emotion you will notice that are not constructive and some others are. For example, when you say something that is bad and someone just calls you out, like you said something racist, one of the first feeling can be shame. And you feel, oh, I did something bad. I am bad. So because someone said that I'm a racist, so I'm bad. And so shame, you're started like that shame spiral. You could also feel guilt, like I did something bad. I said something racist. In that situation, you see, those two emotions don't have the same impact on your behavior and the way you feel and what you do. One keeps you stuck in a kind of a shame spiral when it's about you. One can help you correct yourself and make the right decision. So don't judge how you feel right away. Interrogate the way you feel and see how it helps you move toward the direction that you want to move toward, which is, I want to be better. I want to do better. But if that emotion makes me feel like I'm a bad person, how do I overcome this if I don't understand the role of my emotions? So an example of responding mindfully for that example, for example, someone calling you out as a racist, then you first, like, you pause and then you notice your emotion. Usually, if it's shame, you're going to try to hide and deny, for example. Doing opposite action would be, I don't want people to know this. I don't want people to know that I've done this. Well, yes, I want someone to know. I will share that with someone that I trust and that is supportive, that can help me accept this emotion and make it more bearable. There's also, for example, anger. If that's what's coming out, often it's weird, but yeah, when you're called out to be a racist, like, you will feel mad because this is not who I am. So you're going to feel attacked. So you want to attack. No, when you feel that emotion, opposite action it, which means I want to attack, I'm not going to do it. If it's not constructive, it's not going to help in that situation. I know that's the urge that I have, but maybe I should do the opposite. So this is one way to use opposite action to respond mindfully to situation, especially when it comes to I did something that I was not supposed to do. So this is one practical tool that we like to teach because we notice that emotions play a big part. And we're going to talk about emotions even more in other trainings. But another something that we were very excited to develop for you guys is ways to practice. So opposite action is fun because you can use it in everyday life and trying to build some flexibility. Like you will build a lot more flexibility within the way you experience your emotions and how much power they have on you. Because sometimes, when you're anxious about something, that's never going to happen. Let's at least acknowledge that. So opposite action is fun. But one key aspect, like there's something that's key here. Because opposite action is helpful. It's a tool. But there is something that will allow you to actually open the door to possibilities, open the door to having a good space for everybody. And it seems you will see that at first it sounds a little silly, just like opposite action. It sounds simple. It's way more complex than you think. Practice opposite action and you will see. But what we found to be one of the key aspects is find balance. Okay, let's pause. I'm saying find balance. You're like, what does that mean? Okay, find balance. Okay. Well, we've noticed that one of the things that is the most difficult for people is it's accepting that two things need to happen at once. Like holding two truths, holding two perspectives, like having even that capacity to hold two things and sometimes more. But let's start with just two things at the same time. Is actually very challenging. It's actually very challenging to do that. And you need to build that capacity. You need to work on that capacity. And so when you enter a space and you want to start that work and you want to improve the environment for everybody, especially for people who come from historically underserved communities, you need to work on two things at the same time. And so we created those little steps that we love, those words that will help you hold that and work on that aspect of the work, which is finding balance. And we also call that dialectic tension or dialectic practices. Dialectic is a very vibrant word that not everybody uses, but get comfortable with using it because it's really that idea of, there's two things. I need to hold two things. I need to do simultaneous work. And that's going to do wonder. It is amazing how much you can accomplish with this. So we focus on our work on different little things: emotionality, intentionality, receptivity, open-mindedness, fearfulness, and mindfulness. Hopefully, going through those concepts will help you also do the work that you're supposed to do, like one step at a time. And you can start with whatever you want. It's just having that understanding is important. So for emotionality and for all of those concepts, actually, it's about what do I need to do as a person? What do I need to do for others? And then doing both at the same time to help create connections. So for emotionality, it's about reminding yourself that you need to model vulnerability. You need to be able to understand your emotion, as we say, understand that you need to work on building that comfort of sharing how you feel and who you are to improve communication and well-being. Because if you are the more comfortable you are being more vulnerable in a space, the better space you're building. This is just a connection that's undeniable. The true test of do I feel safe here is how your capacity to be vulnerable. And so you need to show within yourself to be comfortable and to be able to share that some aspect of who you are and started to feel more vulnerable. It's one way that will indicate that the work that you do is working. So make it easier to share information that might be uncomfortable by you building that comfort. You are the one who's doing that work. And for other people, it's also working on your emotional intelligence. and how to listen to other people. Like you model vulnerability, but you're able to receive people when they are sharing their own vulnerability, which means that you need to work on that emotional intelligence of being able to welcome people's perspective of the way what they express to you. And because if you are emotionally grounded, you are able to build better connection and safer and healthier. So there's a very positive aspect of trying to work on emotional intelligence. Uh, it is key. It's a really key aspect. So when you think about emotionality, and if you want to work on emotionality, it's really two things. Like you are the one modeling the behavior that will create the safe space. You are also working on being someone who is part of the work of receiving someone's message. You see, that's the dialectic here. Is you modeling, it's you receiving for other people when they are trying to model as well. Now there's intentionality. So again, dialectic, two intentions to work on two intentions at the same time. It sounds easy. It is not that easy. So one aspect you need to understand when it comes to yourself, intention don't really matter. Like it doesn't matter if you wanted to hurt someone, you hurt someone. So bad intentions don't matter to actually hurt someone. So this is where you need to build better practice around accountability and be accountable for what you do. If someone calls you out, then it's not about how you feel necessarily, or not at first. You need to acknowledge how you feel, but it's the priority is to address what someone said. So it's about you acknowledging that what you do matters, has an impact, and your intention, don't really matter. Also, your intention matter a lot. It also matters a lot because the way you see other people's intention matters a lot. You know that like you hurt someone. It doesn't mean that you should judge other people's intentions. One other thing that you need to do is acknowledge that you don't know what people's intentions are either. They don't know yours, you don't know theirs. So you absolutely need to work on creating a positive interpretation of other people intention. Basically is expect the best. You need to expect the best, or you need to not judge on the negative side people's intention. So you need to work on a way to catch yourself when you have negative interpretation of other people's behavior or what they do or what they say. And it's about asking question. Oh, when you said that, this is how it landed with me. Oh, did you mean this? Because that made me uncomfortable, but maybe that's not what you meant. Understanding that you cannot judge other people's intention means that you'll be you'll be in a better space to communicate better, because you're gonna want to make sure you understand people's attention. You question those attention, and that's very important. That's a very important aspect of the work to work around that and make sure to have a clear communication around intention, while dialectic, making sure that people don't know your own intention and what you really intended to do doesn't really matter when it has an impact on someone else, so you and others. There's also receptivity, what we call receptivity, all of those words that we use for you to keep as concept when you do the work, just to divide the work that you want to do. And receptivity is really two things. First, it accepts mistake as an opportunity. If you mess up, this is an opportunity to learn. When you do something, for you, it's kind of a cue. It's a cue. It's an opportunity. So learn from your mistake and accept that you're going to make mistake and you're going to learn from them. But when it comes to other people's perspective, like this is from your own perspective. But when it comes from someone else, when it's time for someone else to tell you how to do the work, because you made a mistake, you will learn, but someone else might give you feedback. Accept that as a gift. What comes from other people is a gift, because it's also an opportunity for you to not make the same mistakes again and again. It's also an opportunity for you to make things different. So really accept feedback as a gift to change and kind of shift your behavior. And the way you receive those messages, the way you receive communication, the way you communicate will matter, because it would help you shift your behavior or your next decision, your next choices. So here, the dialectical like teaching is really, how do you receive information? How do you receive communication? What do you do with what is shared with you? One aspect is, when you make a mistake, you decide what you do with it and how it's going to influence you. But when other people give you feedback, this is a time that they signal that something needs to change and something might need to be improved. So really, how do you receive a message? What you do with it? What happens on the inside? What happens when it comes from the outside? Another concept, another dialectical practice that we want to teach is open-mindedness. So it's about really cultivating self-empathy. So how do you feel about yourself and your own experience? It's building that positive inner dialogue that you might not have yet, but you can work on and you can develop. It's something that you can achieve, but you need to. If you want to do the work that we are here to do together, you absolutely need to. So it's cultivate self-empathy and how you see yourself and what you know you're capable of doing, and accepting yourself for who you are. And I said that before, but I'm saying it again. Like, we tell ourselves things that we would never tell to other people. And so we need to start to talk to ourselves like we are our own best friend. Like, if there's things that I won't say to someone else, I shouldn't say it to myself, because I need to be open to the fact that I am who I am, and I deserve what I give to other people. So cultivate self-empathy for yourself. For the outside perspective, the more dialectical is that what I work on myself, what I work in connection with other people. And it is accepting that your brain is not open to change. Like, your brain, the way your brain works, like, change is hard. Change is very difficult. For some people, it's almost impossible because you're so stuck in your ways, or in your environment. For example, you're only surrounded by people that think like you, look like you. So for you to change and to even envision something different is very challenging. So you need to intentionally work on that mental flexibility. You need to cultivate mental flexibility intentionally. Because if you know that about you, if you know that about your brain, then you need to intentionally make decision to, open yourself to something different, meet new people, expand what you do, expand your passion, your hobbies, expand what you want to explore, concept. It could be so many different things, like TV show, movies. Like, try and shake things up from time to time to make sure that you are working on keeping your brain in a zone where it's always flexible, and questioning a little bit more your reality and what's around you, because you will. If you're not used to being more mentally flexible, then every time someone questions you or trying to question your beliefs, for example, or your value, then it's way more easier to feel attacked. And then it's way harder to create change in an environment you're in. So even to create change and to be open to change, you need to work on it intentionally, because this is how our brain works. We need to work on it. So it's about cultivating self-empathy. The dialectical practice that we want to teach you here with open-mindedness is really cultivating self-empathy, accept the way you are, and build that positive inner dialogue. But when it comes to receiving information from the outside, that's dialectical aspect of the work. Everything that's coming from outside needs to be welcomed through a mind that is more flexible, that is ready to be flexible. And those two things need to be worked at the same time. So think about it. When you work on self-empathy, you need to work also on receiving outside information, and how you stay open-minded and work on open-mindedness. Then there's fearfulness, another one of those dialectical practice that you need to work on. And it's about what you're like. So first, on your personal side, because again, this dialectic is about self and connection to community. It's interrogating your own fears, like interrogating how you feel, because your fears have a lot to teach you about yourself. And your fears have a lot of control over you, over your behavior, what you choose to do, what you choose not to do, the way you react. So your fears have a lot to teach you about yourself, and you cannot let those fears lead your life, because if the work that you want to do with us is important for you, you need to understand where those fears come from. So learn within yourself, learn about your fears and accept your fears and interrogate yourself. Then, when it comes to others and doing things differently, you need to tame those fears. You need to tame them. And to tame them, you need to accept them. Without fear, there's no courage. That's very basic. But I'm sure some of you that listen to this will just realize that, yes, I cannot be brave, I cannot be courageous if I don't feel fear. So you integrate your fear, but you just let them exist and then trying to not let them control. So tame your fears by reminding yourself that there's no courage without fear. So again, that dialectical teaching here is I need to let my fears in because they will teach me something. So I cannot just disregard them. I cannot block them. I cannot ignore them. This is not what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to let myself feel maybe terrified or, just let them run wild for a little bit so I can learn from them. But then I accept that work that I've done means that now I can build that bravery, that courage that needs that I need to create change also. So fearfulness, it's a mouthful. Integrate your fears to better tame your fears. Then last but not least, this one is always important, but we acknowledge that there's a fatigue around mindfulness. But there's a fatigue and it's everywhere because it works. It's just true. It just works. And it means mindfulness really mean being aware. It's really building an awareness, like a very basic awareness of where you're at and what other people are at around you. So for you, it starts with something very simple, very basic. It's just to start working on having the ability to just notice things. Just notice things. It's even like doing absolutely nothing but what's happening. Why do I need this training in the first place? What do I want to accomplish? What do I notice around me? Not what I'm going to do about it, a deeper understanding about it. No, just start by noticing something about the environment, the space, but something about yourself. Like even working on all the dialectic practices that we shared with you today. Like, what do you notice? Very simple. And for others, it's being mindful of their own reality. What do you notice about them? Because you cannot act on one you cannot see, you can perceive. You need to be able to be mindful of others and what is their experience. So again, that dialectical practice, it's about what do I notice about myself? What do I notice about others? And we really invite you to use all these principles that we share with you today to always work on one aspect, one concept at the same time, but on both aspects. It will help you build that connection, that mindful connection. It will help you build that mental flexibility that you need. It will help you understand yourself better. It will help you open your mind even more. It will help you receiving information and communication better. It will help you being more intentional in the way you connect, but also more intentional when you receive the way people want to connect with you, and better understand how emotion impacts your behavior and your reality. So emotionality, intentionality, receptivity, open-mindedness, fearfulness, and mindfulness are your tools and your practices. Like the tool is really opposite action. The practices will be around this concept of, today I'm going to work on emotionality. So I'm going to try and model vulnerability and share some information that I feel might be uncomfortable and test how I feel about the environment and the space that I'm in. But also working on receiving. People might also be working on modeling vulnerability. So when you work on emotionality, that's why you want to do, etc., with all the dialectical practices. Because if you work on one aspect, you will kind of feel stuck on yourself. But if you're always connected to, I'm going to work on myself, something specific, and always work in relation to others, you are building that ability to hold those two truths at the same time and to have that capacity to find balance, which is key. So that's going to be it for us today. I think it's already a lot. We taught you a lot about, the environment, the culture, the reality of, what it means to be from an historically underserved community, what it means to have that feeling of safety question in your environment, how, if you're aware of that, how the environment is and what it feels to be in that environment, how come I cannot change? Like, what's happening, and why am I feeling so stuck, and what can help? So acknowledging the fact that you are not always in control, and there's forces that you don't really control either, but that you can acknowledge, and then see and be more aware of what is realistic. What can you change? Because if you don't have any impact and you cannot change, then you need to kind of accept it. But there's always an aspect of things that you can change by just acknowledging the environment. Like, what are the systems that have impact on me? What are the structure? What is inside of me that maybe gets in the way? Who am I, etc.? Then you have that practical tool of opposite action that would help you change things in a very fun and simple way, just doing the opposite. I understand my emotions. That's not how I want to feel. It's not helpful. Let's just change it up and do the opposite. Then you have those dialectical practices that are grounded in the fact that you need to do two things at the same time. You need to be able to start and hold two truths at the same time, because it's going to expand your possibilities. It's going to expand your capacity to create change. And that's what a Ready Plus space can be. And that's how you build one, a space where people are just more ready to start and do the work. Hopefully, that's what we accomplish if you work on these things. And hopefully, you understood the value of doing that work. We want to leave you with that quote that we use almost every day in our life, professional, personal life, because it's very powerful. And this is kind of where you can start, ground your spirits. Do the best you can until you know better. And then when you know better, then do better. Well, now that we've helped you know better, go do better. Thank you for being with us for this training. We hope that you will use the tools that we share. You will work on the practices that we shared with you, because we know it's going to create a lot of good things for you. And we know it's going to help you create a more welcoming, a more positive space for everybody, wherever you are. Hopefully you enjoy living and enjoying the fruits of being in a Ready Plus space.